Craig Hahn. Sorry. And we will start our meeting. This is July 17th, Thursday, 2025. First thing we'll do is do the roll call. Robert?
Good afternoon, directors. Please indicate your attendance when I call your name. Director Hahn?
Aye.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Wilson? Director Fagan? We have a quorum.
Thanks, Bob. Item number 2 are awards and accommodations, and our president and CEO, Jennifer Purrs, will present those and accommodations we have for June and July.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jennifer Purrs, President and CEO. And I will say, because of the public hearings that we held during last month's board meeting, we chose to postpone June's awards and commendations to this month. So I have double the fun and honors today. So first, we're going to start off with our safe driver recognition. The operators listed here were recognized in May for their safe driving record, and as always, received a National Safety Council patch, pin, and certificate. I'd like to recognize Patrick Gray at the top of this list. He has been working with us for 20 years and has 19 years of safe driving. Next is a list of our June safe drivers. Again, the operators listed here were recognized in June for their safe driving and received the same patch, pin, and certificate. From this list, I'll recognize Mr. Dexter Davis from the top there. He has been working with us for 30 years and has 22 years of safe driving. So a thank you to Mr. Gray and Mr. Davis for your exemplary service to Indigo and to our community. All right, next we have our employees of the month. Again, we're doing 2 months worth. So first we have Johnny Root, he from our Fleet Employee of the Month category. Mr. Root's nominator wrote, Mr. Johnny Root is an overall team player with a great attitude who goes above and beyond to help. Johnny consistently maintains an impressive KPI of over 21 buses serviced every night, and he does not mind training new employees. His conduct and work ethic reflect a high level of professionalism and dedication, making him an asset to the team. Multiple new general laborers have started, and Johnny was able to assist in the training for all. Johnny has consistently exceeded his daily expectations and performance standards, reflecting his strong commitment to Indigo. So congratulations to Johnny Root. Next is our June 2025 Operations Employee of the Month, Coach Operator Gabriel Emmons. The person nominating Mr. Emmons wrote, Gabriel approaches the service center every day with purpose, eagerly inquiring if any runs need coverage. His proactive nature demonstrates his commitment to the job and his willingness to support the team whenever possible. In terms of professionalism, Gabriel stands out. Gabriel has established the habit of arriving at work early, which gives him ample time to prepare for the day ahead. He takes the initiative not only to complete his tasks, but also to assist his coworkers as needed, fostering a cooperative atmosphere. His attitude is consistently positive, radiating enthusiasm that's palpable to colleagues and passengers alike. This bright disposition not only enhances his work, but also uplifts those around him, reinforcing a sense of community within the Indigo team. So congratulations, Gabriel. Next is our July Garage Employee of the Month, Mechanic Alfonso Perez. Mr. Perez's nominator writes about him. Mr. Perez has exceptional work ethic. He consistently goes above and beyond, taking pride in his work and always looking for additional tasks when his primary duties are completed. He is a team player. He collaborates well with others to ensure projects are finished in a timely and safe manner. He's highly skilled, but willing to share his knowledge, contributing to the development of his coworkers. Alfonso is described as a good dude, professional, and respectful towards everyone, regardless of their position or status. The recognition is well-deserved, highlighting his positive impact on his team and the overall workplace environment. Congratulations, Alfonso. All right, and our July 2025 Operations Employee of the Month is coach operator Dwayne Sims. His nominator writes, for over a decade, Dwayne has consistently set the bar for exemplary safety standards at Indigo, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to excellence in his role. Throughout his impressive tenure, he's maintained a flawless safety record, boasting an incredible 10 years without a single accident. His vigilant approach while operating the coaches reflects a deep understanding of safety protocols as he remains ever cautious and attentive to his surroundings. Dwayne's dedication not only ensures his safety, but also instills confidence from his passengers and colleagues alike. Congratulations, Dwayne. All right. And finally, we want to wish a happy retirement to Maintenance Supervisor Chuck Summers. Chuck did not want any fanfare, so he is not here today, but I'm hoping he gets a chance to watch this meeting either live or on the recorded. So if any of you talk to him, please let him know. We wanted to send him off in a little bit of style. So after 45 years of dedicated service, which I love the photo on the top, that was from the beginning of his career here at Indigo, Charles Chuck Summers will be retiring from his role as maintenance supervisor with Indigo. Chuck has been an invaluable part of this organization for over 4 decades, contributing tirelessly to our mission, setting an enduring example of professionalism, integrity, and commitment. From the earliest days of his career as a body tech through to his recent role as supervisor, Chuck has consistently gone above and beyond to support his colleagues, serve the community, and help Indigo grow and evolve. His deep knowledge, reliability, and positive spirit have made a lasting impact, and his presence will be greatly missed. While we are sad to see him go, we are also incredibly happy for Chuck as he embarks on this well-deserved new chapter in his life. Thank you, Chuck, for everything you've done for Indigo. Your legacy will always be part of this organization. Please join me in congratulating Chuck on his retirement and thanking him for his remarkable service. And that is all I have. Thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Jennifer. Next, moving on to item 3, our committee reports. And without objection, we will enter into the record and the Service Committee report for its meeting on June 12th, 2025, and the reports to the Finance Committee and the Governance and Audit Committee for their meetings on July 10th, 2025. Is there any objections?
No objection.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to note for the record that Director Slash arrived at about 4:11 p.m. Welcome.
All right. Well, if no objections, we'll enter those into the record then. Now going on to our regular agenda, the next item is number 4. And we will begin with action item A1, and that's consideration and approval of the June 18th, 2025 board meeting minutes. Are there any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of the June 18th, 2025 board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
You
we
wanna do
need a
a-
motion. We need a motion.
Motion, yeah. Who's,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No opposed. Okay. Approved. Next is action item A2, and that's consideration and adoption of resolution number 2025-05, authorizing the transfer of real property from the city of Indianapolis, Pearl Street. And our chief legal officer, Robert Fry, will inform us on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is recommended that the Board of Directors adopt proposed resolution number 2025-05, authorizing Indigo to acquire certain real property interests from the city of Indianapolis, namely the south half of vacated Pearl Street, for use in the operation of the Carson Transit Center. So by way of some background, and by the way, I put a visual in front of each of you just so you could have some perspective and of where we are talking about. But Pearl Street was an east-west running street, is really an alley in downtown Indianapolis until 1982, when it was vacated between Delaware Street and Alabama Street by the Marion County Plat Committee. When public right-of-way is vacated, it's split down the middle, and the owners of property on either side receive ownership of the vacated land. subject to utility easement rights. So therefore, when Pearl Street was vacated, the north half would have become part of the property of what is now the Carson Transit Center, and the south half became a part of the property to the south, which has long housed the Marion County Jail up until recently. And again, I gave you an aerial image to give you an idea what we're talking about. The cross-hatched area that you see towards the bottom of the image is former Pearl Street. So by statute, two political subdivisions can exchange or sell property to each other based on any terms and conditions they agree upon, as evidenced by substantially identical resolutions being adopted by their governing body. The city of Indianapolis, as you may be aware, has torn down the old Marion County Jail and plans to redevelop that property. And as part of that process, Indigo requested and the city has agreed to give us that south half of vacated Pearl Street that was part of the jail property. At its meeting on June 4th of this year, the Metropolitan Development Commission of Marion County adopted a resolution authorizing the transfer of that south half of Pearl Street to Indigo at no cost to Indigo. Therefore, we're asking today that this board adopt a similar resolution that likewise approves the transfer of the property to Indigo at no cost. So there will be no cost to actually receive the property. There'd just be some minimal costs, less than $100 probably, to record the deed of transfer from the city to Indigo. With that, I can try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, board? Okay,
Remind me, how much land is it?
Oh, it's 0.14 acres, more or less.
All right, thank you.
Not a lot of land, but it gives us a little more operating space there on the south end of the transit center.
Perfect.
any other questions? I'd ask for a motion and second for consideration and adoption of resolution number 2025-05, authorizing the transfer of real property from the city of Indianapolis, Pearl Street.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Since this is the adoption of a resolution, we'll need to do a roll call vote, and I'd ask Bob Fry to do the roll call for us.
Directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Hahn, Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Wilson, Director Fagan,
Aye.
Director Slash.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next is action item A3, and this is consideration of adoption of resolution number 2025-06. And this is approving an advertising and sponsorship policy. And Bob's going to speak to this and has done a lot of work on it, so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It is recommended that the Board of Directors adopt proposed resolution number 2025-06, officially adopting a new advertising and sponsorship policy for Indigo. So Indigo has historically allowed advertising on its buses, and it also seeks to seek out further opportunities for advertising and sponsorships on other assets, not only buses, but also bus stops and shelters, BRT stations, and perhaps any other facilities. However, it's important because we are a government entity that we have very clear objective standards to determine what we would and would not allow from a standpoint of advertising. And our current policy is a bit outdated. It's been around for some years. And since it was adopted, there's been numerous court decisions finding that some of the language used in our policy, not specifically Indigo's, but it was common language used in a lot of policies by transit agencies, but courts have found that they were too vague and violated the freedom of speech enshrined in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So the purpose of this updated policy is to not only modernize it, but also to make sure that our policy falls in line with this long line of court decisions, which basically hold that we can maintain content-based advertising guidelines, which are designed to preserve our advertising spaces for its intended purposes, but we cannot discriminate on the basis of viewpoint. So this new policy has clear objective standards, not vague or subjective standards, that would risk First Amendment liability. But the adoption of this new policy, we should be on solid ground. The new policy creates a uniform, viewpoint neutral process to evaluate advertising and sponsorship opportunities and allows us to determine which opportunities we're going to pursue consistent with the objectives of our advertising policy. So with that, I can try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I know a lot of information's been sent around on this, so I think everybody's pretty well informed. I can tell you that some of these go back to what we call the blue laws, which were implemented many 80, 90 years ago. And most of them have been found unconstitutional now under the Commerce Clause in our federal Constitution. So I know you did a lot of work on this. Really appreciate all your effort, Bob. So with that, if there's no questions, I'd ask for a motion and second for consideration and adoption of resolution number 2025-06, approving an advertising and sponsorship policy.
So moved.
Second.
Since this is the adoption of a resolution, we will again need to do a roll call vote. And Bob, would you do the roll call, please?
Board members, please indicate your vote on the present motion when I call your name. Director Hahn,
Aye.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Wilson, Director Fagan,
Aye.
Director Slash.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have action item A4, and this is a consideration and approval of additional design fee for 1501 trench drain replacement project services. And this will be presented by our Senior Director of Capital Facilities, Moderation and Asset Management, Andrea Hermer. Andrea.
I knew I was going to screw up somewhere. Okay. To execute a new task order under an existing contract with HDR Engineering, Inc. For additional design services. This pertains to our 1501 trench drain replacement project. We'll talk a little bit about more on that in background. An amount not to exceed $23,060. Before I delve into all these great facts and interesting information, I did want to introduce and recognize that Erica Miller with HDR is here in the audience with us. HDR is also one of our on-call engineering A&E services firm, and they do a great job. Erica's position at HDR is Indiana's transportation lead, and on this particular project, she serves as a project manager along with Sarah, our in-house project management. And I would just say consultant extraordinaire. If folks are familiar with Erica's name, she worked for the city, and she understands the needs of more municipality type organizations and how to find that right balance as far as cost. So thank you for coming. And I hope I don't screw this up and you get this approved. So this project, the reason for this project is that, we are converting the existing trench drains into the existing trench drains, which are really open graded drains, into narrower trench drains. And this is really important because it's really the goal of this is going to reduce the responsibilities and the need for upkeep and maintenance. There still is requirements, but it's going to really reduce that burden and make it a lot more easier for operations and facilities folks to deal with. And also, I think we're just going to get better quality by this approach. There's just going to we have a lot of buildup and sludge and those kinds of things that get built up and over time. And this design is going to help us prevent, keep away from that. We started the project in May. We started excavation work. We're just doing one drain at a time so as to only interfere with one of our bus lanes as far as fueling lanes at a time, so we can keep service. Cheryl's keeping service going as we expected. And when we opened up the first trench drain, the first existing open graded drain, and we excavated, we knew the fuel line was there, but the fuel line ended up sitting much higher than what reasonable folks and designers would have expected. So as a result of that, HDR has done a good job. We had to essentially redesign this. And basically, the approach is, instead of the trench drain being this deep, it's going to be shallower, or it's going to be shallower and wider. Okay, so that we can fit it where the current elevation is and the location of the fuel line, because the last thing we want to do is have to touch or relocate the fuel line. So it's a fairly straightforward, simple resolution, but it does require the designers to go back in and make certain that all the details will work. And so that's the nature of the project. So this project also will not have any XVE participation, because obviously we need to go back to the designer of record for consistency to make this, although HDR has done a really good job of including XVE participation in all of our projects under their contracts. So the financial impact, this is going to be an additional cost, but we were able to work with the facilities team and Justin, and we were able to find available funds to be able to cover this so that we can move forward and complete this project, and so we can realize the benefits and purpose and need of it. So any questions about that? But that's our request.
Any questions from the board? Okay.
Have any questions, but I would say maybe next time I do like visuals just to be able to see you if you have them.
Oh, we've got visuals. Yeah, no, I apologize. We can do that. I'll make a note of that next time. You don't like this and this?
Thanks.
Okay.
I will now ask for a motion and second for approval of additional design. Yeah, no? Is that the right one? Yeah,
Yep.
there's two of them, so here. Additional design fee for 1501 trench drain replacement project services.
So move.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No nays. Okay. All right, next one, Andrea. Action item A5, and that's consideration approval of East Campus Design Services. And you're up on that one.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. This is a request again for the board to authorize Jennifer Pierce, the CEO, to execute a new task order with CDM Smith, who's the designer of record on our project for the additional facilities on the East Campus, to expand the East Campus project to include some additional fleet operation and fleet services over here. And so where we're at in the project right now, as far as the design and planning, is that we did, as a result of the last work we did, we do have a agreed upon conceptual design, if you will, scheme. The good news with that is that it's one that much better aligns with our project budget. So we are gaining some confidence that we can meet our project's goals and purpose and need within the budget that we have. And so that was a very important step. So this task order is asking for additional funds so that we can go, and we already have project budget to cover these fees, is to take that conceptual design and advance it to 30%. And this work should be completed by the end of the year. The amount that the task order is for is an amount not to exceed $1,107,220. And like I said, this is a critical next step to us advancing the progress on our East Campus expansion project to add additional vehicle maintenance services. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to address. There is, in DBE participation, we do have the overall XBE participation under CDM Smith is 25.47%. On this particular task order, we do have XBE participation coming from three of the tasks that we have. Guidon is going to provide electrical work. Vistara is doing our cost estimating services, and CTL will be doing some engineering testing under this task order. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Andrea, when do you anticipate that we'll get this project to ready?
To ready?
Yeah.
The general schedule, and we've kind of, the next approach too, we know that because we're going to be at the end of 30%, we're going to look at that purpose and need in that budget, right? To make
Yep.
certain that we are realizing the value and the absolute value that we need. So this will get completed with 30% by the end of this year. I
Okay.
feel pretty confident about that. And then next year, we also hope to be able to get our construction management constructor on board by the end of the year. And so then in 2026, generally speaking, we'll be taking it from 30% to 100%, let's say, right? Along with our CMC that's going to help us with pre-construction activities and play that role. With the current schedule looks at starting work in Q1 of 2027.
Okay.
If that helps.
Yep.
Andrea, do
Sure.
you want to share the caveat that we've put on that? Or do you want me to share the only caveat that we put on that is we have a grant for 33 million that is kind of stuck at under review at USDOT. So we have asked the team not to proceed with bringing the CM team on board and moving beyond 30% until that grant is fully executed and we're positive that it's going through.
Yeah, so no, I appreciate that. That's important. And yes, and even the schedule I just outlined assumed worst case that we wouldn't get the signed grant agreement until the last possible date, but we still feel like we would have time to get the CMC on board to meet kind of that broader project schedule.
Thanks for that. And thanks for that additional context.
I'm sorry. Are you done? So help me understand. So assuming that the grant comes, is there a drop dead date that, you need to have that grant executed?
Well, I think there's a,
Before it creates problems?
yeah, I think under the, as I understand it, and I'm relying on Cassie, our grant specialist, who does a great job. The last date that, for approval on that grant would be September 30th.
Right, so
So we-
at the end of the fiscal year, okay,
That approval process by then. And so then, like I said, we assumed, like, let's say we get to start that, then October 1 would be the earliest date we could start.
okay,
So,
great.
yeah, so September 30th is the big date that we need to get that grant agreement. And I know Cassie and the rest of the folks are doing everything they can to get that taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just stuck at DOT, so we're just gonna have to wait for them to get done with their, whatever it is they're doing, so, okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, I ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of the East Campus Design Services. Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, passes. Andrea, thank you very much. I know this is a big task and doing a great job.
All right, but thank you, thank
Appreciate
you.
Okay. This brings us to agenda item number 5, and this is information item, and item I1 is the finance report, and that'll be presented by our CFO, Bart Brown.
Thank you. Bart Brown, CFO for Indigo. This is the June 2025 financial summary. Under revenue, our federal assistance revenue came in over budget for the month of $193,147. Other operating revenue category is over budget by $31,354. And for the year, we are under budget by $599,633. Passenger service revenue was under budget for the month of $75,836. For the year, we are under budget for $371,348. PMTF grant and local income tax both came in on budget for the month and for the year. For property tax, our spring collections, we yielded $1,981,022, which was over budget for the first half of the year. And it also happens to be the same number for the entire year. And then service reimbursement program revenue was over budget by $4,523 for the month, and for the year, over budget $15,889. All revenue for the agency came in over budget for the month of June, $2,134,210. And for the year, we are over budget $2,578,774. Turning to expenditures under personal services, fringe benefits were under budget for the month, $537,777, and year-to-date under budget, $2,429,874. Overtime was over budget, 227,370 for the month, and for the year, we're over budget, $1,023,013. And then salary expenditures were under budget for the month of June, 294,782. For the year, we're under budget, 2,357,109. And for all personnel service category came in under budget for the month, 560,189. For the year, we're under budget, 3,763,970. Other services and charges, claims were over budget for the month, 35,408. But for the year, it is under budget by $1,168,179. Then under miscellaneous expense category, under budget for the month, 70,335. For the year, we're under budget, 276,595. Purchase transportation was over budget for the month, 603,573. And for the year, it is over budget, $619,203. Services expense was under budget by $936,490. And for the year, we're under budget, $10,554,694. For the month, utility expenditures were under budget by $41,529. And for the year, the utilities was over budget, $16,727. And then finally, materials and supplies, fuel and lubricant category was under budget, $150,811. And year to date, it's under budget, $923,672. For the month of June, the maintenance materials category is under budget, $16,796. Under budget for the year, $59,409. Other materials and supplies categories under budget, $86,501. For the year, it is under budget, $597,840. And tires and tubes category is under budget for June, $18,064. And for the year to date, under budget, $207,050. So all materials and supplies under budget, $275,172. For the year, $1,787,972. Overall, total expenditures came in under budget for the month, $1,244,735, and year to date under budget, $16,915,479. We did have a couple of non-budget requests, and you heard a little bit about these two requests. One was for the additional engineering for the trench drain, and that was estimated at $20,000, and then additional work to do that project, the planning work is $10,060. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes the report. I'd be very happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions from the board, Rick?
Hey, Bart.
Yes, sir.
I'm just a little confused. So the 23,000 that we just voted to approve for that's the 20,000 in additional?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the request comes in ahead of time and then they get the better number.
So additional work, is that the actual work to do the drain with the new design?
There were two things. One was the planning work and then the additional work itself. And I don't know if Andrea, I'm sorry, wants to clarify anything that was presented here.
I want to clarify it, but I will. Looking at the unbudgeted requests, those expenses related to, they weren't the design engineering modifications, but as part of the work, the soil, we needed additional funds for environmental services because as we excavated, and we knew this, it's just the dollars that ended up coming in were going to be higher, was that we have an environmental consultant who's there on site to characterize the waste as we have to clear it. We have not had any problems, but there's a certain process that we go through. So the 10,000, so I'll get to that.
10,060 is for that environmental work? Okay.
Yes, and then the additional engineering, this was before this request. There were some additional engineering services earlier in the project, and I think that's back in June, that we needed to cover. And so that was an unbudgeted request that we had asked for.
So this 20,000 is not the 23,000, it's in addition to the
This is in addition to.
23,000? So we're 43 and change now? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions? Hey, Bart, how's come we're so far under budget on fuel and lubricants? Man, that's unbelievable. 20-some %.
Yeah, well, so typically, and you'll hear a little bit maybe during the budget as well for 2026, we work with operations on their need for fuel, and then we estimate what price may come in, and we don't get those prices until we do the budget. So for 2025, we locked in the budget, and then we got great news on our fuel for 2025 right after that. So we are seeing significant, savings. And we cross our fingers because we just put out, again, the qualifications, RFQ for fuel. And we hope to get, we hope to get at least close to the same price but we are going, Justin is going to tell you, we're going to budget a little bit more for
Okay.
fuel for 2026.
Well, that's fabulous.
Yes.
That's great news. Is there any other questions? Okay. Then we will move on to, next item is I2, and that's introduction of the 2026 budget. And Justin, are you doing that or Bart? Are you-
Introduce it, Mr. Chairman, and then Justin is going to do the bulk of the presentation. But we are thrilled to present the 2026 proposed budget to the board for introduction tonight. There won't be any action. We'll have Justin will go through the schedule. I do want to, and he'll say it as well, just reiterate that we'd be very happy to sit down with any board members to do one-on-ones to go over it in detail. That's what this next month that we're going to set aside time for you. And if you could go to the next slide, please. And so I just want to point out who is responsible for putting the budget together. And of course, it starts with our CEO and what she puts down as her priorities for the year. And she sends that to the executive team, who then meets with their folks to put together the budget that they require for 2026. And of course, we did hear from our chair of the finance committee about the zero-based budgeting, which Justin will go over a little bit, explain how we do that. The budget team, Justin and Andrea Arrocio and Cassie Burmeister do the lion's share of putting this budget together. And I do want to take some time to recognize Andrea Arrocio. She is home recovering from surgery, and she's had a kind of a tough year, but she has never complained, and she has been there every step of the way. So she is very instrumental in putting this budget together. I wish she could be here, but just want to wish her well. Also, thanks to our chair, Rick Wilson, who spends time with us to go over this and gives us great advice. And of course, the executive team and the directors, they put a lot of time in this. They're busy with their everyday jobs, and this takes a lot of time for them to really get this right, and they did a great job of putting it together. So with that, next slide, we're going to go show you what the size of the budget is that we're requesting. So the total is 432 million. The operating's 153.9 million for requests, capital 257.6, and you could probably guess majority of that is the blue line. And then our debt service is at 21 million, and that includes a full year of debt service for the blue line. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our very capable budget director, Justin Burko.
Thanks, Bart. Next slide, please. Good evening, members of the board, executive team. My name is Justin Burko, budget director for Indigo. And before we get into the details of the 26 budget, I just wanted to take a step back and share what was asked of our staff ahead of time before budget preparations began for the upcoming fiscal year. First, we asked all chiefs, directors, and managers to work together to create a budget that was built around the strategies and objectives in our strategic plan, which you can see on the screen there. Each line item or budget request was to have a direct impact on at least one of the following: protecting frontline workers, increasing ridership, or prioritizing long-term stability. The goal was to bring these strategies and objectives to the forefront as we contemplated the allocation of our fiscal resources for the year. Next slide, please. Next, in order to promote fiscal sustainability, we asked our budget preparers to adopt a zero-based budgeting methodology. Zero-based budgeting means that we essentially reset the budget to zero each year and build the fiscal request from the bottom up, with justification for how each line item supports the organization's priorities and objectives that we just saw on the last screen. The goal of zero-based budgeting is to limit budget creep and help focus resources more efficiently, as opposed to simply building set increases year over year to the operating budget. And with that philosophy in mind and methodology in mind, our team went to work, and we're pleased to present the results of that effort, which is a proposed operating budget of $153.9 million. This represents a 4.85% total increase when compared to the 2025 adopted budget, but importantly, it reduces budget growth by 1% when compared to the 24-25 budget cycle. By main expenditure category or character, we're budgeting $84 million for personnel services, $54 million for other services and charges, and $15.5 million for materials and supplies. Personnel services includes wage increases as outlined in the collective bargaining agreement for union staff, as well as merit-based increases for non-union staff. We have budgeted for 919.5 full-time equivalent positions, which is an increase of just 3.5 FTEs from the 25 approved budget. The budget for other services and charges will cover the costs of our paratransit operations contract, our security contract for facilities, as well as all of our IT software and maintenance subscription costs for the upcoming year. Materials and supplies includes the costs associated with procuring fuel for our fleet, as well as stock parts and bus tires and tubes. Additionally, significant investments in areas such as facilities repairs and upkeep, paratransit operations, security, and capital planning are some of the largest drivers of the increase compared to 2025. But in that table, you'll notice that more than most of these investments have direct ties to at least one, and if not more, of our strategies and objectives in this strategic plan. I'd also like to point out one new budget and accounting procedure for 2026 that's relevant to some of the increase you're seeing specifically in the other services and charges category. And that's around how we account for our cost sharing contributions for capital projects that are done in conjunction with the city of Indianapolis. Prior to 2025, capital contributions for these projects were considered Indigo capital investments, and as such were included in the capital budget. That's mainly because the assets, once they go into service, they belong to the city of Indianapolis and not Indigo. And so our external audit partners had recommended that this then be classified as an operating expense going forward. So for 2026, you'll see a $2.2 million contribution for some DPW-led road improvement projects that would have previously been included as a capital expense. Next slide. On the revenue side of the operating budget, the makeup of how we fund our operations remains largely unchanged from prior years. We have three categories of operating revenue: local, state and federal, and other local. The largest source of operating revenue comes from our local taxes. Local property and income taxes do make up nearly 60% of our operating budget for 2026. You'll also recall that we are obligated to produce a balanced budget each year. And to achieve that, we're proposing using $25.9 million in stimulus fund balance for the next budget cycle. That is funds that were previously drawn federal assistance that we've got set aside and available to fund any operating shortfalls. Our local revenue budget is planned to support $102 million worth of operating expenses next year. In 2026, we're planning to utilize $42.7 million in property taxes. This represents 4% growth in the net assessed property tax value from the prior year and also includes $16 million in special property tax. Total transit income tax, or referendum funding, is estimated to be $81 million, $49.5 million of which will be supporting the operating budget in 2026. The remaining income tax revenue will be split between our debt service budget and our capital program. Farebox collections are budgeted at $5.9 million in 2026, which represents a $700,000 increase from projected collections in 2025. And finally, we have $3.9 million budgeted in the other local revenue category, which is primarily made up of advertising and interest revenue. From our state and federal partners, we're planning on using $51.9 million to support the operating budget next year. That includes $11.4 million from the Indiana Department of Transportation's Public Mass Transit Fund. This $11 million represents what was approved in the state's most recent biennium budget and sees no increase from 2025. On the federal formula side, we're projecting $14.6 million in operating revenue, which will support our ADA paratransit operations, safety and security initiatives, and our preventative maintenance activities. And as I mentioned earlier, we're programming $25.9 million in stimulus funds to balance the 2026 operating budget. Moving on to the capital budget. For 2026, we are budgeting $257.6 million towards capital purchase projects, which we group into 5 categories: BRT and on-street infrastructure, facilities, fleet replacement, information technology, and safety and security. As has been the case for the last several years, we continue to make the largest capital investments in BRT, facilities, and in modernizing our fleet. In 2026, the most noteworthy capital projects include construction of the Blue Line, which is our 3rd BRT route, construction of a bus storage and maintenance facility here at our East Campus, as well as fixed route and paratransit vehicle replacement. We fund our capital improvements through 3 main sources. Those are grant reimbursements, local taxes, which is made up of property and income taxes, as well as through the proceeds from municipal bond sales. The issuance of bonds allows us to stretch our local income tax revenue and make more upfront investments in these capital projects. And for 2026, we'll be using nearly $95 million in bond proceeds to fund those investments. And I'd also like to highlight the fact that we will be bringing back $142 million worth of funding in the form of grants to Indigo for our capital program. This represents more than half of our capital budget for next year. And this is a testament to the great work that our grants team does in identifying competitive and formula grants, and then doing the difficult work of securing those opportunities through grant applications and reporting. So that the work that they do is extremely critical to maximizing the value of our local dollars. And then the 3rd and final budget that we fund on an annual basis is our debt service budget. We currently have 4 debt issuances that have helped fund BRT design and construction, replacement of vehicles and equipment, and investments in operating infrastructure. The oldest issuance is from 2018, and that was issued with a 10-year term to maturity. So we will no longer have debt service obligations related to that after 2028. And the most recent issuance was sold earlier this year for a par amount of $125 million, and will go towards building and equipping the Blue Line. This issuance carries a 20-year term to maturity and has maximum annual debt service payments of $10 million. And then just to wrap things up, just a few reminders on where we stand along our budget timeline. The next step in our budget approval process after the introduction this evening will be to hold a public hearing the evening of Thursday, July 31st. And then at next month's board meeting on August 21st, we will seek adoption of our 26 budget, and we'll have the ordinance and resolution for you all to sign, which will formally adopt the 26 budget. And then from there, we'll seek adoption with the City County Council, and then finally the Department of Local Government Finance at the state level. And as Bart mentioned, if in between tonight and the adoption meeting next month, if any member of the board has additional questions or would like to sit down to discuss, feel free to reach out. This is the main members of the budget team here, and we'd be happy to sit down and go through any questions you might have. And additionally, you've got a copy of the budget book here. It's got a much more detail than we could provide in a PowerPoint presentation. So take a look at that, and then if you have any questions, please let us know. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, but I just want to, for the record, thank Justin and Andrea. I call, George W. Bush called Mitch Daniels his blade. I call Andrea my little samurai. She worked so hard on this, board members. And I think, Justin, you and your team deserve just a great big thank you from this board for everything you've done on this. This is really great stuff. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that's all that we have for this evening. I would like to close and thank all of our staff and our employees. It's been a rough and tumble last 2 or 3 weeks with a lot going on. including the weather. I know this, growing up on a farm, I know what it is to work outside in this heat and humidity, and it's only gonna get worse. But, and then we've got huge weekends and weeks coming up with the NBA All-Star game going. And then we've got free, yeah, free rides on Indigo. There you
Thank you, Pacers Sports and Entertainment.
go. And then we also have the Black Expo. And I know there's several other things going. So it's going to be extremely busy. And we just want our staff, employees to be safe and thank them for all their efforts under some trying conditions. So with that, we will adjourn until our next meeting in August. Thank you. Hmm.
Did you all